morning and welcome to your Daily Game Face. I am Dr. Kim Lannon. I am here with Lou the Pooh.
Here we go.
No, that's a good thing. Lou the Pooh. Couldn't think of anything else. I've got my, hey, we're doing well here in the wonderful state of New England Patriots this week.
That's right.
I know. Look at, I got my Patriots in my office behind me today. I'm at my home office. I've got my little teddy bear that was a gift.
We've got so many nice presents in Boston sports the last couple of weeks. It's been fun.
No, right?
Yeah.
I know people are probably like, sorry, everybody else.
Yeah.
I was rooting for I was rooting for Kansas City the other night. Ooh.
Why?
Well, because, I'm a little Swiftie.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I actually liked Kansas City way before Taylor and Kelsey ever got together.
Okay.
Because I like Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, I don't hate him. I mean, a lot of people hate him, and it's a threat to the Patriots dynasty and all that. They're just good. Just enjoy it.
Well, I liked them before it, and now I just like to watch them. I have multiple teams, as you know, because I have multiple players across multiple teams. So but I do favor the New England Patriots because I run with them and I run for them and I work with individuals here and there. So
have you been in touch with Taylor? Why is she not doing a halftime at Super Bowl?
I have not been in touch with Taylor, and we'll just stay out of the controversy, but I like Bad Bunny, so I'm very happy that Bad Bunny. I actually thought it wasn't bad. I thought when they first announced it, it was Tate McRae, and I was so disappointed because I was like, I really like Tate McRae, but it wasn't Tate McRae.
Yeah,
but I like Bad Bunny.
Okay,
Bad Bunny's fun. I mean, I like him better than Kendrick Lamar. I mean, I like Kendrick Lamar for some things, but I like Bad Bunny. I think he's fun.
It's time to do an alternate halftime Super Bowl show. It's time. Somebody has to rent a stadium, put two acts.
I saw that you posted that.
Time to do that.
Well, so talk about your idea quick, because I think it's a fun idea. I don't think it would quite get the amount of views as the Super Bowl, but
I don't know. See, let's take a couple of acts, and this is just off the top of my head. I don't even know if Madonna's even performing anymore. She is
here and there.
You do Taylor and Madonna, you put them on two ends of the stadium, you sell out the stadium, and then for 15 minutes during halftime of the Super Bowl, they get together and perform with the two stages coming together, and you broadcast it live, and then you sell $100 million in sponsorship for.
Wow, wouldn't that be something? Now, interesting. I mean, and then obviously we can move along, but interesting to know that my understanding in the craziness of the showbiz world is I don't know if Madonna and Taylor get along.
Probably not.
Because they compete for the, you know what? It's not Taylor, because Taylor gets along with everyone. It's Lady Gaga. Lady Gaga does not like it when she gets compared to Madonna. And
I was surprised the other day. This is totally off topic, but I was surprised the other day when I heard Madonna was the highest female seller still. I thought Taylor would have passed her by now.
I think that
although the electronic music part of it,
I was going to say, I don't know if that's actually still true. I think that that's an inaccurate statement, but you would probably know better because I follow that a little bit. And I thought that she had surpassed her.
It might be the whole music industry is different now. So it might be measured a different way. In other words, Taylor's selling a lot of digital stuff where Madonna didn't. So maybe that plays into it. I don't know.
Hey,
it's hard to believe anybody's bigger than Taylor at this point.
Who is?
Yeah, I said it's hard to believe anybody is bigger than Taylor at this point, or has ever been bigger than Taylor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I'm sure that busts Madonna's chops because she always wanted to be like the most. Hey, by the way, it just came across my ticker that Joan Kennedy died.
Oh, how old is she?
9 billion years old.
Oh God, yeah.
9 billion years old. I don't know. That whole side of the Kennedys is like old. So
COVID
anyway,
vaccine?
What?
Was the COVID vaccine?
Yeah, exactly. So I have been every show, this year of you and the year of me and the year of like all the months and all the people are loving this. And people just started asking me now once, we're in October, but people said, what are we going to do for the next year? And I'm like, oh God, we haven't even gotten through the year of you and me yet. So wait a second.
Well, the year of you has done a basic function, hasn't it? It's set an intention, right? That's one of the basic functions.
is just to set an intention has been the whole thing. And then we've been building on different things all year and just understanding different parts of our life to be able to know why we need to set an intention or whatever that might be. Right. So I don't know what the 2026 shows are going to be about yet because we're still in October. But people are all excited because we're like, what's in people said, what is October, November, December going to be like? And I'm like, well, you'll see, because I do have that, as you know, in plan. But I'm like, well, we're just going to kind of keep going on the roll and going with the flow. So, but the trauma bonding shows have been very successful and people love that. And the amount of people who understand what trauma bonding is now, I think, has multiplied by a lot, which is good. And but one of the big pieces that came out of it that I love getting the feedback from people about the shows is that there's specific pieces about like how do you do life with relationships that have trauma bonds if you're staying in them, or you have friendships or you have family members or you have coworkers or all these things that you have these bonds around, right? And so I thought today we would talk about how to find your peace, maintain your peace bubble by boundaries. And we do talk about boundaries a lot, but I don't think I've ever just specifically talked about boundaries for the show. And I thought today we would talk about the importance of boundaries, how we set them, why we struggle setting them, the pieces of it. So one of the things I tell my clients is that boundaries are not for the other person. Boundaries are they're not walls. They're not about shutting people out. They're just clear definitions of what's okay and what's not okay for you.
Right.
And that's one of the biggest misnomers about boundaries and boundary setting, because people automatically think it's about pushing someone else away, but it's not. It's about setting a firm line for yourself that protects your energy, your time, your emotional well-being, and that you have to be conscious to protect your own peace, because there's what I call opportunistic thieves out in the world, right? Yeah. There's opportunists that are thieves that are out there to steal your energy, to steal your peace. Whether they do it with intention or not, it doesn't matter. It's just the fact that they're out there, right? And we know that that's where the trauma bonds are built in. And so you need to consciously, and I emphasize conscious, you have to be consciously aware to protect that peace by guiding yourself and defining what that looks like for yourself, to make sure that, and it might be individual by individual, because sometimes an opportunistic thief will look like, a wolf in sheep's clothing. Sometimes it's really, really clear. Yep. Sometimes, it's on a continuum of, and there's also a very, it's like the covert and overt narcissist, right? So to protect your peace bubble, you have to actually be really conscious and aware of who you're standing in front of, what they're bringing to the table, and really what aspects are they bringing to the table to affect your life. Now, physical boundaries, which I think a lot of people get confused about around the boundary setting, is physical boundaries define your personal space and your privacy, but emotional boundaries protect your right to your own feelings without taking on others. And your time boundaries, also important part of like the bonding and friendships and relationships. Time boundaries honor your right to prioritize how you spend your time. We often get guilted and shamed into spending our time in ways that we wouldn't necessarily pick for ourselves, because we feel compelled to do for others before we do for ourselves. And that requires a time boundary, which then protects our emotional peace boundary, and maybe potentially also our personal space boundary. So that's where I start with around boundary. It's not a wall. It's very specific. It's about defining what's okay for you and what's not okay for you. And then how you do it is going to be a different story, but it's about that consciousness of being able to put out that space for you. It's a space that you provide for yourself that is mindful of your physical, your emotional, and your time.
Get stingy with your mental energy.
It what?
Get stingy with your mental energy.
Yeah, and I don't know. Yeah, stingy is a word for it, but I think it's I think it's also
Well, budget it. Be
that's
aware
it.
of how you're
Right.
spending it.
It's budgeting it and
Yeah.
allowing yourself to know that it's okay to, I mean, one of my biggest boundary setters is no is a full sentence. And no is a full sentence. And I know growing up, and I was not taught that no is a full sentence. That's, no is a no. You don't say no, and no is okay. No is allowed, and especially with, obviously if you say to a kid, you need to take the trash out and they say no and they're defiant, we have a different we have
Right.
a different
Yeah.
conversation. But when it comes to things that have to do with crossing or violating your emotional sensibilities or your emotional boundaries, or we've talked a lot about gaslighting and people, um, maneuvering you or utilizing you, or lying to you, or crazy making you, all the things that come along with, emotional maneuvering. That's that opportunistic thief, right? So if you can identify that you have an opportunist in your life and that will thieve you of all the things, and you allow it, then that's where the year of you comes in, is set the intention for the fact that you're going to protect yourself with your peace bubble, um, by being able to, one, recognize it, be conscious of it, and then be able to have your nose and know what your limits are. Because it's about being stingy, but it's really about budgeting what you're allowing for. And it doesn't mean you have to shut people out, because oftentimes that scares people when you say, you got to set a boundary, and they go, oh, that means, it's all or nothing. Like, I have to get
Right.
rid of that person. No, there's actually been some really good articles recently in the Times and New York Times, and Washington Post, and a couple other, like, that have been studies that have been put out about how the last 20 years, more and more people are taking bigger breaks from family members and taking bigger breaks from friendships and other things, and also setting good hard boundaries for themselves in marital relationships, because the opportunistic thieves are, for whatever reason in our culture currently, are just rampant.
Well,
And
you just hit on a point that I think is important. I wanted to run it by you because
mm,
you're talking about interactions, and that's great that you have to create your boundaries in your interactions. But here's the problem I see with people a lot is that, for example, your boss is giving you a hard time and he's
right,
really annoying you and setting you off, and it's Friday, right?
yes,
Set it down till Monday.
right,
Don't give him all that energy. Don't give him or her all that energy throughout the weekend when you don't
right.
have to, right? And
Well,
that's again, personal budgeting of your own mental energy. Be able to, if it's a long family member that you're not going to see for another couple of weeks, set it down.
right. Well, and so Lou, that's one of the hardest things for people to do, because it there's a fear that
Yeah,
comes with the set down. There's a fear that, when you say to someone, you have, let it down, let it go for the night, or let it go for the weekend, or whatever. We all fall into this on some level until you really work it through, and it still can be a little sketchy when you're working it. There's a fear and scariness to the fact that if we are putting it down, that somehow we're allowing it to be okay, and that somehow we let go of control of it, and that's not the case. It's
it's the
about
exact opposite.
it's the exact opposite, right? It's about that you are actually giving yourself the control of saying, I have no control over this until tomorrow. I have no control over this till Monday. I can't do anything about it. And I can't predict out what's going to happen. And so when I mean, that there's things in life that have, for instance, like, I've had things that have gone on for years, and that there's a point that there was a turning point where it's like, okay, there's no more worrying that can be done, because I
Right.
can't do anything about it, because it's outside of my control. Which is why I think the serenity prayer, if anyone has worked in addiction, or I think the serenity prayer should be just part of everyone's, and it has nothing to do with, like, God per se, even though the words are in there. It has to do with just, like, giving up what you have no control over and accepting what you do have control over. And I think when it comes to, you have a bad thing with the boss on Friday and you can't really do anything about it, to be able to just let go of it over the weekend is a skill,
Hmm.
but also come I think it's hard. I do think that there's some hard pieces of this due to developmental age factors. I think the older we get, I just had this conversation with a client this week. The older we get, the easier it is to say,
Yes.
I don't give a shit.
Yep.
um, and it is going to be what it is going to be because we learn over time. I think wisdom over time, it has nothing to do with like your age per se, but the age factor is there. And I apologize right now because my lovely 21-year-old child Echo is echoing in the background, calling for me. Okay, Echo, I can hear you.
She's
Um,
not letting go.
no, she's not letting go. And this is like, she's looking for me. She knows where I am and she's
Yep.
yet calling for me. But I think that the age piece is the wisdom piece over time. So
Yep.
I assured the person that although, because they're like, this is so hard and they're in their late 20s. And I said, yes. And I said, but by the time you're 40 or 50, you're going to just look back on this and be like, God, why didn't I just let this
Yep.
go? And I said, if you could allow yourself, give yourself permission to you can feel the feel the feels of the scariness and the fear and the uncomfortability. You're not alone in that, but you are okay and it's going to be fine. You're going to be fine. You're going to land on your feet one way or the other.
Yep.
But
It's something, again, it's gained with age, and it's like for me, often I'm at the point where I'm just trying to give it to somebody earlier, especially my kids and stuff like that, you know?
well, right, and that's why I love when I work with like my patients. I try to, if they're younger, I try to get them into that space earlier, especially when it's that factor of they worry so much about what other people think. That's that peace bubble. That's that boundary thing of saying
Right.
like, you have no control over, whether or not that, professor likes you or not, whether that boss likes you or not, whether or not that person likes you or not. It's you don't have control over that. And people work so hard, especially when they're people pleasers, to try to do that. And then what you do is you violate your own boundaries by selling yourself short or selling yourself out because you want that so badly for yourself. You want that person to like you, love you, need you, want you, think you're great, but you don't have to do that. Not everyone's I'm gonna have this conversation today with a 12-year-old. I'm getting ready in my head because it's coming
Yeah.
today. There's friendships breaking up, right? They're 12 and they're
Yeah.
girls.
Oh, yeah.
And it's the basic friendships are going to come and go. And you have to kind of be able to be flexible and roll with that and feel the feels and know it, but also know that they'll loop in on themselves. And, it's hard when, you're a 12-year-old and you know everything and and which is what happens. You're 12 and you know everything. And when you, as an adult, tell a 12-year-old that, it's going to happen and girls are going to come in and out of your life and not everyone's going to like you. And they look at you like, you don't have a clue what I'm talking about. I'm like,
And yeah.
I really do. But you don't know that until you're much late. Like it's hard to, it's like,
Yeah.
and I always tell parents, don't tell your kids that, well, when you're older, you'll understand. No, because then they're just going to ignore you.
Yeah.
Because just say, it's totally normal. Feel your feels. This is going to happen and just go with what is. Don't tell them that it's going to get better in 10 years. Just say, yeah. And Sally will come back to you probably in a week, or you guys might not be friends for a year and wait till high school. Holy crap, it's going to get worse.
Yeah.
You
Middle
know
school.
what?
Middle school, 7th and 8th grade.
That's the 12-year-old in middle
Yeah.
school right now.
Yeah.
And in middle school is brutal, right?
Oh,
So,
it's the worst.
right. So this is an important part of like that boundary setting. So, okay. So if the boundary setting feels scary and uncomfortable, certainly you're not alone. Um, so like you have and I have, we've been on long journeys with this for forever. I don't know anyone that hasn't been on a long journey with boundary setting, and it's hard, right? Many of us were raised to be nice, air quoting,
Yeah.
nice, which is often the code for put others first, always before yourself, especially gender wise. Females are notoriously taught that, right?
Yeah.
And women, myself growing up, and we have lots of like good research on this, and anecdotally I can speak for myself, women especially are socialized to be caregivers, peacemakers, accommodators, and this makes it even harder to draw the line. And I see generationally, like I see my older clients have such a much harder time with doing the boundary setting concept than younger sets of people, right? Both men and both boys and girls and men and women.
Because they're more entrenched in that role model.
Well, they're entrenched in the role model, and the role modeling is that there's this fear built in of disappointing others. There's a fear of conflict. There's a fear of not being liked. So it goes back to everything we were just saying. But that fear, and when I say fear to people in my practice, people are always like, "I'm not afraid." Okay, it's defense. It's not about fear like I'm afraid of spiders. It's this internal existential internal angst, right? It's that overall, like, I can't disappoint someone. I can't say no. I can't be perceived as the one that doesn't come through, the one that isn't always saying the right thing. And all you're doing is torturing yourself, because that fear is basically beneath what lies there is that it's the question of, am I worth having my own needs?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Am I worthy of having my own needs? And it's like, yes, but we are not raised. This is why I love working with, I don't work with kids under 6, but I love working with 6 and up, because I work so hard with them on building their worth and their confidence and their needs based on lots of things that are not just external validators,
Right.
because that fear of people pleasing is so present still. And I think that's always going to be here. I mean, in all my years of practice, 30 years plus my own life on top of that, I have not seen that change. That's always the underlying theme in
because too many people see their self-worth in their reactions from others. Their self-worth is external, and it's
right. And
too external. Yeah.
So to that point, what I've come to realize with boundaries is that the discomfort of setting them is temporary, and the benefits are long lasting. And to get people to see that discomfort is just a momentary thing. And if you, it's those two roads, they're both hard, right? And so if you don't set the boundary and you keep looping, you're going to keep having the same pain. You're going to keep having the same worry. You're going to have that fear of disappointing. You're going to have the people pleasing issue. You're going to have the opportunists come in and thieve you, right? But the other road is the benefit of the long lasting holding the boundary. You're going to have relief. It might be hard because it's uncomfortable, but you're already uncomfortable anyway. So pick your hard.
Yeah.
So it's about preserving your peace bubble by picking which road is hard. They're both hard. Pick one that's going to end better. And I'm a firm believer in there's two roads. There's often many more roads, but the roads are always hard. I don't know any road that's not hard, but one is always going to be a better result. You're going to get somewhere. And the ones that are looping and that never have an end, or that keep smashing into another road that's not got a good finish, why do we keep doing that? Well, because we think, it's the definition of insanity. Keep doing the same thing over and over, hoping for a different result. What's going to happen, right? If you don't set a boundary, you're going to still get stepped on. The more you don't set a boundary, the more you get, stepped on. Prime example, I have a friend that works hard, and she will go the extra mile. She's a big people pleaser. She'll go extra. Her son's the same way. And he gets, he's much younger, but he always goes through these things. And I'm like, the more you do, the more people will expect from you, the less they'll give you, because they're opportunity thieves. They will take from you without having to give, because they don't have any reason to have to give back to you, because you keep doing more and more in hopes that they're going to recognize you for the amazingness that you are. That's not how it works.
And we spend too much time doing this with low priority items instead of, and the high priority items suffer. Right.
Exactly. And when you say that, like, what's a good example of like a high priority item?
Family.
Right.
Kids.
Right. Right. Exactly.
People that you're living with on a day-to-day basis, people that you're helping to take care of, instead of spending it on social media, for example, or in the workplace somewhere. Right. And that doesn't mean ignore or just piss off people in the workplace. It's just like, be cautious about your mental energy. Don't give it as much. Don't grind all week long in front of your family, by the way, for something that a coworker did, 3 days ago or 4 days ago.
Right. Well, and that's, Well, yes to all of those things. And it's hard. And people will say, but yeah, it's hard, especially if you haven't been practicing it. So, and the reason why it's hard, and to your point, is your nervous system, like your polyvagal system, the thing that regulates your emotions and your body and everything, your nervous system remembers what the dysregulation feels like. So it will keep coming back to that. And your mind will recall like the sense of the looping, and it will go into the old patterns. And this is where your boundaries can come in and start to help change that regulation and get you to a different way of being, because we have the ability to rewire our brain. So how do you make that peace bubble? And so to your point, how do we not grind during the week, and how do we get out of that? So my not one of my, it's probably not my first thing, but in any given order, create a buffer. You have to have a buffer zone between um, uh, commitments. So I work on this. This is an ongoing journey. This is not something that's easy. I'm practice what I preach, and if I don't, I try to redo, and I really look at it and I get feedback. But create a buffer zone between commitments. No more back-to-back commitments. I am, as you know, and you are too. It's like we go. It's like back to back to back to
Yeah.
back to back, and
Yeah.
then we don't take any downtime. Even on our downtime, we're doing like I'll travel for business, and on business, that's my leisure.
Yeah.
Right? It's like
Yeah.
every, it's like, oh, I'm doing something that looks like fun on the surface to everybody else, and it has that aspect to it, but it's still working. So I will say that I have that problem as well. And so what we have to do is work really hard at creating some buffer zones between activities in our calendar so that we don't have back-to-back commitments. Right. And
Yep.
and so that's one. Um, so
We're
try,
back to self-care, which
yeah,
everybody needs.
right. And that's a self boundary. That's a
Yep.
boundary for self, right? Um, and then I do this. I'm notorious now for doing this. So if I go away, like I just did, right? I will set an autoresponder for my vacation response on my email. I so wish, if anyone's out there listening, can we make one of these for text, please? Texting does not have an
It
autoresponder.
doesn't?
And not that I have found. And if someone knows of one, please let me know, because ah, um, I would love to have an autoresponder that says, she's not available right now.
Yeah.
Please stop contacting her for 5,000 days. Um, but but setting my email. So if I'm gone for 5 days, I'll always put it the day ahead and like a day or two after as a buffer,
Yep.
because it gives me a batch of time where I know that people will stop once they get that first kickback response of she's out of the office. I know that all the emails now coming in are going to slow down, other than junk. So that when I get back in the office, it's more like delete, 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 delete. I don't have to, like, because that gives me the buffer, because it's a boundary. And
Right.
this is what people are like, oh, that's a boundary. Yes, that's a boundary, because it gives you relief. And so if I'm even like, I was just on vacation, I was able to quickly go through on a daily, because I don't like have anything in my mailbox. I always check for emergencies, even if I'm away. But there's that emergency thing again. Even when I'm
Next
away,
time for
I
that?
check on emergencies. Um, I will delete while I'm away, because it's easier, because I
Yep.
put the buffer in of having that, right?
Right.
Um, and then
Plus,
once
neither of us having a way, which is
right,
fine if you handle it well.
right, and that it's how you right, and that's
Yeah.
so being a doctor, I'm not always on. Like, there is no real way, and because I work for myself, there is no way, right? Yeah, you can have there's no relief. There's no other than saying, like, go to the emergency room and, things like that. So I always check it, but it's giving the like, someone texted me yesterday and asked for an appointment. I haven't seen them in 8 months. They want an appointment. And I immediately said, is this emergent, or can this wait a few weeks because of my schedule? Now, if it had been emergent, it would have been right away, because that's an important thing in the business.
Right.
But also to manage my boundaries and not overcommit time and put in extra time, I asked, and the person said, non-emergent, don't worry, I can get an appointment in a couple weeks. Now, 20 years ago, I would have just scrambled doing the people pleasing thing and been like, oh, I'll get you in right away. And it would have I would have sacrificed a Saturday morning. I would have done something like to make it happen for that person.
And that wouldn't have been the end of it either.
No,
No,
right.
that's the thing. Yeah.
Right. Because
Because
then
they'd have
once
kept coming back for you for short-term appointments.
right. And then right. And so now I've learned by boundary setting is like, okay, establish what is first. Is it emergent? No. Good. Okay. Now we move forward. If it was emergent, I would have done it right away. Right.
Right.
So, and that's what brings, like, in terms of business, right. And not having like codependency in my field, right, with patients and all those things. That's what gives me peace for my field of work, but also what would be generalizable to anybody. If being able to really respond to people, like, you don't have to do it immediately. Just because someone texts you right away, you don't have to text right back. I had a family member text me the other day that I don't talk to a lot, and they texted me and I hadn't heard from them in a while, but I wasn't available. I was on top of a mountain. On top of a mountain, and I didn't have service. I saw the text come in, but I couldn't, but
Right.
like 6 hours later, I still hadn't responded, and they were like, "Are you okay?" It's like, "Oh my God."
Yeah, I know, right?
I just have to have 2 seconds. And I'm like, "I'm on top of a mountain."
Yeah.
So, but it's but I would have freaked out 30 years ago being like, "Oh my God, they're gonna be so upset with me." Like, okay,
Yep.
I not to care because I have my boundary and I have it was my peace bubble. So I think declining things that are not essential. Think of it that way. If you think of it like a business model or data points, and you think of it more transactional, is decline things in your life that are really non-essential in that moment. So that if you've already like tapped yourself out for the day or for the week or whatever, just know that you're at your end. Like, if someone wants to get together for lunch and you know that your week is tapped, like, people ask me like, oh, I don't get lunch. You know me, I eat on the fly like you do. I'll say, if you really want that, I have to book that out like 3 weeks.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's not a thing that happens for me. I can't do that. And if and it, I could, but I choose not to because I prioritize patients, right? So that's what gets happening then. And so if you want my time, it has to come at a different time. And people have gotten used to that. So that all rolls off me. But that's because I set this peace bubble and this boundary of like when I can do things.
And I
And
think
people
a
are,
great runway for this is the small steps we talk about, where you just define out. For me, for a long time, it was car rides in between, in between
yes,
jobs or in between commitments. Just taking some space, going somewhere, sitting at Dunkin' Donuts for a little while, or we laugh about it all the time, but watching the Patriots games. That's 3
right,
hours a week where
right,
leave me alone. I'm just watching the
right.
game. I'm just enjoying the game.
I have a client that notoriously will come to my office, have their appointment, and then 3 hours later, I will go to leave my office and they'll be this is very different than people who are stalkers. Um, but just I'm clarifying this because that's a whole different thing. But this client for years has consistently, they go sit under, I have a picnic table that's
Yep.
in my office outside. They sit under the tree and read a book, and they're still sitting there, and that's all they do. That's what their time is. And I always laugh, because I say to him, I say, how long have you been sitting there? He's like, 3, 4 hours. He goes, I went and got some lunch. And I said, he just loves doing it. He's been doing it for years. That's what that's his peace time.
Yep.
He's a police officer. This is what he does. This is when he gets time he's not on duty. He's like, I don't have to go home. This is how I take my peace. And he reads a book. He goes, the only time I get to read my book during the week is when I come to you. And then as soon as our session's over, I process and then I read and then I have lunch.
But if you
I'm
can
like,
get yourself into a period where you can shut off for an hour,
right,
that starts to build the skill set, and you can do it longer and longer. It's like,
right,
just okay. I'm just my peacetime. That's a great way to put it. This is just what I'm doing. I love radio. I've always loved radio all my life. Talk radio,
right,
especially. Sit in a car and listen to talk radio. I love it.
right. I tell people, listen to a podcast instead of
Yeah.
like getting on the phone and talking with people. Listen to a podcast or listen to some music. Like, I hiked over the weekend, and when I got to the top of the mountain, I went and found a very peaceful spot that was away from the crazy mobs of people. And then I put on Spotify, which happens to work because satellite works on top of a mountain.
Uh,
And it was lovely. And I just listened to music for
Listening
like,
to Shake It Off.
no, I didn't listen to Taylor. Nope. However, her new album's pretty good. I like
I've heard. Yeah,
it. Yes. You what?
I've heard it's good.
It's very good.
Yeah.
Her song, some of her songs. I like Canceled and I like Wood. They're good songs.
Yeah.
Um, But no, I was listening to Adagio for strings, to be quite frank.
Wow. Okay.
Adagio for strings, one of my favorite songs from classical music. It's a very sad song. There was a reason why I was listening to it, but I was listening to it.
Hmm.
And there, it sitting on a mountaintop, listening to like five of my favorite songs that cover over half an hour was lovely. It was just lovely.
Yep.
And there were people like here and there, but it was so lovely because you know what? It gave me my peace bubble. It recharged my there was no opportunistic thieves around me. And it was
Right.
lovely, right? And that's such a recharge. And that's why your peace matters for clear boundaries. Sometimes, um, it's what I just did, and sometimes it's like I'd love to help you, but right now I can't. I can do it tomorrow, or I'm notorious for with my practice, people know that they can't get a hold of me after usually like 6 or 7 at night. If
Right.
it's an emergency, I'll answer you occasionally at 9 or 10, which people don't
Yep.
text me, right? People know not to text or call me in the morning until like I don't even if someone's unless it's emergency. I If someone's calling me um or texting me and they want to know something, I will answer when business hours start, when typical normal people business hours. I
Right.
start early, but normal, so that's it's a silence of the notifications essentially without silencing them, right? Because your needs cannot be an afterthought. They're the foundation of everything that you stand on. And so your needs have to come first. Right.
Yep.
So that's why I go back to the art of like having a sacred no, right? Because when someone says, could you just do this quickly, or could you do like, and then all of a sudden you just slip out yes. Yeah, I mean, a lot of times you can say yes, right? But remember that your no is wrapped in not meanness. Your no is wrapped in kindness, but it's an unapologetic boundary that you're setting to say, no, but I'm not saying no, I don't like you. No is not a rejection of you. No is just I wish I could help right now, but I can't. Because I have 500 other things right now. But most
Yep.
people, most people, when you set a healthy boundary that is unapologetically just kind, like I can't right now, or that's not going to happen, or it has to be next week or something. The right people, meaning the people who are healthy, the people that will be okay, will respect that. And then the wrong ones will
Right.
never respect your peace anyway, and they're going to blow past your boundaries and they're going to do whatever. And those are the opportunistic thieves that you say, please don't do that. They keep doing it. Please stop doing that. Please don't do. And they just keep going. And that's the ones you have to really wrap that peace bubble around you because they just don't care. They'll blow past you. They're chaotic. That's that chaotic attachment, right? They want you to be stirred up with them. They want to cause a fight. They want to blow past your boundaries. They want to make you feel like you're you're hurting them somehow or rejecting them or abandoning them by, not giving them their peace
Right.
and whatever. And it's just,
This is
ridiculous.
about prioritizing energy too, because your
Right.
home, your family, your friends, an
Mhm.
event that you've committed yourself to, sometimes those take priority of energy, and you can't be distracted by stuff that's not high priority.
Right. Right. Exactly. And you have to figure out what your priority is. So I asked very specific questions. So to maintain a peaceful rhythm in your life, right? I'll ask patients, what practice brings you the most peace in your life? It's amazing how many people are like nothing. I have
Yeah.
many patients that will say, even I have friends that say nothing.
Yeah, I know, right?
Right? So then I'll generate things like, is it reading with morning coffee? Is it scrolling? Is it walking? Is it sitting out on your porch, your deck? Is it your animals? Is it journaling? Um, I'll go through, I've told you I have a resource list of like, I'll say, here's a list, here's a peaceful practice list. Is it yoga? Is it, what is it? Right. So defining out like a practice that someone can come up with that's just something peaceful. So that gives them that sense, right? And then I call it an anchor, like creating a sensory anchor. Do you have a candle that reminds you of some kind of time away that you've had or something that makes you feel good? Is there a piece of music, which is why I listen to Adagio for strings, right? Is there something that you play that gives you a sense of calm? Is there, so sight, smell, sound, something that gives you a calmness, that brings something that's sensory and gives you an anchor to your body, that gives you a sense of a peaceful state of mind. So you're finding something that brings you peace, but also if you don't have that, do you have a sensory anchor? Do you have something that's going to give you a peace bubble, even for a few minutes, to give you that moment? Sometimes, like, I'll use sage in the bathroom when I'm showering. So I know that sounds weird,
Okay.
but like, I'll sage the bathroom before, because that smell is just like, okay, it's a reset, renew, refresh, and that's peace, because 15 minutes of that time in that space is like, okay, that's how I start my day.
Yep.
Don't do it all the time, but that sometimes I'll feel like the need. I'm like, okay, this is a good, like, because it's cleansing, because that's what sage is for.
Showers are particularly good because
What
showers are particularly
oh,
good because you just have to, you literally have to set everything down. You put the phone down, you get in the shower, and for
right,
15 minutes or 20 minutes, you're just
right,
there. You're just there. You're just in the moment.
right. Yes. And so, like, the shower, to that point, I call it, or, set it. You know how people set alarms to remind themselves to do things, for like, get up, walk, get up, do something, whatever. I also set alarm. I don't do it anymore, because I know how to do it on my own, because it comes automatic. But I say, twice a day, set a rush alarm, because people are always on a rush,
Mhm.
right? Set an alarm twice a day that says, okay, that goes off. That's your reminder to take 1 minute to just deeply breathe and just be at peace. And that's your peace moment, right?
Yep.
And so, whether you call it the peace alarm or your rush alarm, like, because you're always in a rush, it's your slow down, it's your whoop, I'm going to take this 1 or 2 times. Sometimes I have patients who do it 5 times a day, just depending, because they need it. But,
Yep.
that's, creating that pocket for yourself. Um, and then also, how you talked about driving, and I've said this before in other shows. Drive times are shut off times.
Yep.
So when you're at work and you leave to go home, if you're, right, if you're outside the house, it's shutting off from one to the other, actually visualizing the switch off. And because that's a good personal boundary for you, is
Yep.
not bringing your work home. And then also, when you leave home, doing the same thing. When you leave home to go to work, your home stuff shuts off so that you can go to work. If you are a home worker and you're still at home working, you have to do a transition on your own. That means you have to, like, get up, leave the house, go outside, do the same thing for 3 or 4 minutes, maybe, or 10, or go for a drive and then come back, so that you can do that switch, and thinking of it as an on-off switch, because you have to preserve that peace bubble, so that, that you have a transitional moment. Transitional moments for boundaries are important. So if you're a home worker, then maybe that's changing your clothes. Now you're not in the same clothes that you were in all day. One of these things was so prevalent during the pandemic, is people never got out of their pajamas. And I would say, you've got to get out of your pajamas, because you're not having transition. And then your nervous system is starting to feel like everything is the same, and you're starting to get more depressed, or you're more anxious.
Yep.
So, because there's no gear shift. And then you're not setting your own personal boundary to, like, say, hey, I need to have importance for myself here. So that's another piece of that.
And that
Um,
robs you of that relaxation transition too at
yes.
the end of the day. Getting back into the pajamas is part of that. It was one of
Is
those
part of the
transitions. Yeah.
relaxation.
Yeah.
Exactly. Coming home and switching off. It's like taking off the mask, or taking off those pieces, right? Um, so then another piece is creating stillness. Stillness is hard for people, sitting still, right? So between whatever all the things are, listing all your things, finding moments of silence. People don't like to sit with themselves.
I know.
Sitting with themselves. That's one of the I get my counseling students to practice this, and people don't like sitting in silence, and sometimes the best things happen in silence. I Some of the best therapeutic moments of my whole career with people have been while we sat in silence,
Yep.
because it works so many things, and people get uncomfortable, and I'm like, I've practiced it. I'm like, I love sitting in silence, but being able to um have, no radio, no calls, no sounds, nothing, just being still. When you wake up in the morning, do you have to get on the phone right away? I tell people, don't pick up the phone right away. Shut the alarm off and lay there for 5 minutes in silence, right? people have a very hard time doing that, but I encourage it because that helps you get your intention for the day okay, to say, I'm going to have good boundaries today because I'm keeping them for myself. I'm giving my sense of self the stillness to be with myself. Um, and I think a lot of people run from stillness and
Yep.
silence. If you're having a morning cup of
As the
coffee.
mind winds, they just keep whipping up fears, and that's part of the task here is learning how to calm that mind and calm that reaction.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so if you get up in the morning, have a cup of coffee, do it in quiet. Sit, or at least do it in quiet for 5 minutes, 5 minutes, or you like to go on an evening walk. And I always say, go with your, I always take my phone with me as a safety, but go with your phone and put on a piece of music,
Yep.
or listen to a podcast that's funny, or because you're finding things for yourself that are about these are boundaries. These are actually setting your boundaries. These are giving your time and space and energy, you time, not energy that's expended on other things and other people and other, it's important because we don't get enough of you time, and then we're too easy to say yes to everything. And so this gives us a return to our calm and clarity, to be able to say, I've got to take care of me. In order to take care of me, I have to do this so that I can be able to do those other things, so that I'm not like resentful, or I'm not upset, or whatever. And then when you're doing that, you're basically creating energy exchanges. And so, how do I explain this? So think of your friend, or who's somehow always leaves you feeling drained, criticized, slightly less than, or they tax you, right? Like, we all have a friend like that, or two, right?
Yep.
Or a person in our lives, right? And now think of the one who makes you feel like seen, accepted, and energized. The difference here is that one relationship protects your peace and the other one doesn't, right? So when we want to think of visually, or think of like how to see that, it's like you want to make your whole self feel like that relationship with yourself is the one that creates the peaceful one, where you're seeing yourself, you're acknowledging yourself, you're setting your intention, you're energizing yourself, you're accepting yourself, you're your own friend, where you're not the one that is doing the drain on you. Because you don't need dramatic confrontations, you need thoughtful choices. You need to make choices. Maybe your intention for today is make a choice to protect your energy flow. Schedule time with yourself, for yourself, so that you can keep yourself replenished. Keep interactions with people that are drainers brief, so that your boundaries don't fall apart, especially if you have difficulty with them. And because so many times you'll have interactions with people that don't know how to keep and maintain their own boundary,
Right.
and they'll just push out onto yours. And so if you can keep the interactions briefer, then those will stay in place easier. And then that preserves the relationship better, if you want to keep it in your life, or you're trying to rebuild a relationship, or reestablish something that may have gone away from you in general.
And let me get back to an earlier point on that. When you say briefer in the interaction, of course, but briefer in your lingering in it too, right?
Right. And less,
Be done with it. When you're done with that interaction, be done with that interaction.
right. And also, and I think and internal to the interaction is being brief with your mental and physical energy of what you give to it by responding or reacting.
Right.
It's more about, and that's hard. I will tell you, that's very hard. It's a practice always, for people, especially you can go for like periods of time doing a great job, and then sometimes you just go "Boink," and you blow.
Yep.
You have little moments where you're like, I'm about to like react, and you do, because it's hard not to, especially if you've held on something for long time, and then the boundary, you've been pushed so hard. People who are opportunistic thieves will push your boundaries really hard, and because they want you to join them in the chaos. That's the whole trauma bonding, right? And because they will do that, sometimes you'll slip in and you'll participate, and that's why it's sometimes, very difficult to maintain some of these boundaries, because you're trying to create a peace protection around you in your home, your work, your friendships, your relationships. And sometimes it's really hard because your surroundings are often whispering at you all day long messages that are like, at you.
Right.
And at the same time, they're whispering messages of like, take your peace, take your peace. And you got to know what yours are saying, because you want every peaceful corner you can find, because you want that to be your anchor, so that when those thieves are in your space or environmental thieves are there, you want that to get out of your way. And so pausing to preserve that space between what's stimulating you and your response or your reaction is where your peace lives. And like I just said, when you have a blow and you blow off steam because that space in between the stimulus and response gets fired up, you have to make sure that you find back to your space. And I want to say it's hard. And the more you practice it, the easier it gets. If you're
Yep.
not good at practicing this, it's going to be so hard at the beginning. But I promise you that it does get incrementally easier, because remember, when your fuse gets lit, right? um, Instead of immediately having a reaction, which is emotional, take a couple deep breaths and in your head go, keep my peace bubble, keep my
Yep.
peace bubble. Can you find peace immediately to cultivate it anywhere in the moment, to just be like, I'm going to think about this, and am I going to really respond? Am I going to really react right now? And it's a way to center yourself. Um, Not perfect, but
Yep.
it is a way to center yourself. So,
Oh,
so I
it's
think
what
these things are a good way to start practicing good self boundaries.
is what's happening at that moment. The fact that you're giving too much self-worth validation externally to the thief,
Yes.
right? So
Yes.
building good internal self-worth so you don't depend on the opinion of the thief, the energy thief,
Right.
you will get less worked up because you
Yes.
know you have self-worth. You know if you don't appease this person totally 1,000%, you're fine.
Yes.
Everything's fine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And know you who your opportunity thieves are.
Yeah.
And when you do have them in front of you, know that they're likely 99.9% of the time working to thieve you. Even if they're not, even if they don't know it and they don't think they would be doing that, or they think they're wonderful people, and narcissists are notorious for doing this. Like, they think that they're wonderful, and they get reinforced by, especially if you live with a narcissist, the world around you will be like, they're great, she's awesome, he's wonderful. Yeah, well, at home, not so much. So you have to remember, like, that, how to maintain that peace thing, because that thieving will be there at all times, because they're looking for a supply.
Because that's their dynamic too, is they're looking for self-worth and what they drain from you, right?
Yes.
It's
Yes.
external.
Right. And
They have no internal self-worth.
right. And because they have no internal self-worth, or minimal, they look to you to
Yep.
join them in their shit.
Yep.
Unfortunately, they would deny that, but that is exactly what they're doing, and because that maintains their supply of, like, how to maintain their chaos, right? So that's why boundaries are so important. So I guess to wrap some of this up today on your own personal boundaries is, remember what actually matters. At the end of life, no one wishes that you answered more emails or kept a cleaner house, or you do, but you don't, right? At the end of the day, you really wish that you had moments of just simple peace, joy, connection, love, kindness, affection, attention, that's good and healthy. And your peace is protected when you yourself figure out what your priorities are and they're super clear. If you don't know how to keep them in your head, write them down for yourself, look at them daily, let them guide you. Um, let them guide your attention, let them guide your time. At least that's the importance of the whole year of you, about setting an intention. Here's an intention, your peace.
Hmm.
I want peace today. Prioritize it, write it down, know what it looks like, and protecting that, really important point here. Protecting your peace is not selfish. I have clients tell me all the time, I feel so selfish for doing that. No, it's how you become your best self for everyone who matters in your life, right? Because it's what you're doing is you're modeling for your own self. You're modeling how to have a healthy relationship with yourself. And it shows out in the world that you have self-respect for yourself because you're finding pockets of calm. You're finding how to become quiet and still in the face of other people's chaos. And then, one boundary and one mindful choice at a time creates a bigger, it's stacking the wins, right?
Yeah.
One boundary, one intention, one mindful choice at a time continues to accumulate more peace.
This is why it's important not to wait for that age wisdom that you talked about and learning these principles early, because what happens is you build your life on these principles. In other words, if you establish self-respect and self-peace as a priority, you attract people into your life who will respect that and work with that.
Right.
As opposed
Exactly.
to trying to please everybody, you're going to attract people who need to be pleased.
Exactly.
Right. So in partners, in how you raise your kids, in your entire life, you're just going to want to attract people who respect the fact that you have a need for peace and some self boundaries. And that's what you'll do if you establish them early enough.
Exactly. You
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because
You
I
know,
didn't.
is what?
Because I didn't.
Well, and you learned, right?
Yeah.
You learned. We all learn. It's everybody's got this. No one is without this. It's just on the continuum. So,
And it's not linear. Some days you have good days, some days you have bad days.
and sometimes it's moments, and sometimes there's moments. Sometimes you have just crazy moments, and then sometimes you're like, oh, okay. So I think it's just one mindful choice at a time and creating that peace bubble for yourself. And it's not to say it's not hard. I want to emphasize, but remember, pick your hard, right? Which hard is going to be there? The fight, the
Right.
chaos, or the one where you stay by your boundary, even though it might be painful.
Pleasing is hard too. So.
Yeah. Well, yeah. People pleasing is brutal.
Yep.
Very, very hard. So I definitely have learned that setting good, hard boundaries for myself um, has worked to help relationships. And I'm still working on certain ones.
Sure.
And I think it's going to be forever. And so I say that as both a personal person, as a human being, and as a doctor, that this is just a journey.
And back to the primary point of the show where you started about how you deal with relationships that don't respect that. That doesn't mean you have to cut these relationships off, but you do have to find ways of managing them personally.
You have to find ways of being at peace with. You can't change that person or that relationship by engaging in their chaos. You have to step out of their chaos.
Yep.
And that's sometimes the hardest thing, but
so go have the relationship, get in the car,
yep.
Do the transition, get on with the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you live with someone like that, right, make your day away from them your best life. And when you're around them, preserve your energy and have, nice, limited, less conflict with them.
Go sit under a tree and read a book. I like it.
Yeah. Or watch something good or whatever. Speaking of watching something good, as an aside, I am a Wicked fan, as you know. And
Okay.
I just wanted you all to know that I got up this morning really early and watched the Fandango and the Amazon Prime site crash over and over again while I raced to get tickets for the early premiere of Wicked.
Oh,
And
it's crashing the sites? Nice.
Oh, yeah, but it doesn't matter to me because I got my tickets. Not only did I get one set, I got multiple sets of early that doesn't come out officially until the 21st of November, but I got tickets for the 17th
Nice.
and the 20th.
Yeah, go scalp some.
I know. Well, I was like, no, I'm going to keep them.
Okay.
Oh no, they're hard to come by. I literally had to keep refreshing. The site kept saying, we're down. I'm like, of course you're down because there's millions of people trying to get these tickets. Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah.
Who was the last person who did that? Taylor Swift.
And it was right. And so it's fun. I'm sure it's going to be on the news that Fandango and Amazon, because Amazon Prime was offering one set and then Fandango was offering the other. I was like, oh, they both went down. So, but I have Wicked tickets. So I'm excited. I'll be dressing the part.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah.
Which character?
Well, I'll do Elphaba one day and I'll do Glinda the other.
Okay, of course.
Well, I like them both for different reasons because Glinda's really not a good witch. But I love her outfits. And Elphaba is really the good witch, even though she's the wicked witch. She's really Probably not. But if you don't know Wicked, you don't know that.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And you don't know Wicked, so you wouldn't know that.
I saw Wicked.
I know, but you didn't really see it. You still were like, what? What was going on in this movie?
I missed the lion part. I didn't
I
make the
know
lion.
you missed more than the lion part. And you missed, yeah, you missed a lot.
It was overwhelming. I was in
Well,
the
this
theater. There was a
second
lot of
part is
singing.
the second part's only 2 hours and 17
Yeah.
minutes. And you could buy tickets for the whole 5 hour thing. And I was like, I can't do it 5 hours. I
Wow.
can't sit 5 hours. No.
They're playing them back to back.
They're playing them simultaneously, and you can buy tickets for that. I'm like, I'm out. No,
Wow.
I can't sit 5 hours. I can sit for 5 hours listening to clients, but I cannot sit through 5 hours of Wicked.
That's a lot.
Right.
It's a lot of singing. A lot of singing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it was more that I was sitting. It wasn't the singing. It was the
I know.
sitting. No, I don't like sitting that long. But
It's just
anyway.
overwhelming. It's a masterpiece. It's overwhelming.
But do you know that that's my peace bubble?
Oh, well, there you go.
Right? I brought it up. That's why I brought it up, because I was like, that's my peace bubble.
It's funny you say that, because that's a loss for a lot of people. Going to the theater as a peace bubble.
Mm-hmm.
That's an industry that has waned since the pandemic.
Right. And I would I watch movies online on TV
Sure.
all the time now, but I much rather go to the theater. I like going to the theater, but even when I go to the theater and I think there's going to be 1 million people in the theater, I'm usually the only one in the theater. And I am a person that will go to the movies by myself, and people think that's weird.
Oh no.
I'm like, I love going to the movies by myself. It is
weird about that.
It is the best me time. I love by myself things. If you can't sit with yourself, you got to work on that. Everybody.
Yep.
You got to be able to sit with yourself for a couple hours. So.
Well, I used to say all the time that a bellwether for mental health was, can you go to dinner by yourself?
Right. Well, and people, see, that's a whole thing. Maybe I should talk about that, because
people freak out about that. It's like, no, it's awesome.
What do people think? Who cares? Like, they'll think I'm alone. Maybe, but who cares? It's too much about what people think. That's the whole, I'm so worried about what people are going to think about me. Who cares?
Whole crux of the show right there. You're too worried about people who think about you.
Exactly. It's like, it doesn't matter what people think. But then even the people that are waiting on me, will they think that I'm like, a loser? That's what I get. I'm like, who cares what they think? They're like, well, they're going to ask me if I'm waiting for someone. Nope, just me. And like happiness, like, no, just happiness. I love that. So
no, it happens more than you think. The wait staff is fine with it.
Mm-hmm. Wait staff doesn't care. They're going to get tipped anyway. Right?
Yep.
All right. So on that note, everybody take the month of October to create your peace bubble more by creating good, solid boundaries for yourself and being happy and living with moment to moment mindful choices. And you guys have a great week.